Are you a real estate investor and always wondered how do they do those 100% financing, no money down deals? Well, stay tuned because today on the Never Lose a Deal podcast, that is what I'm going to be talking about. Welcome. My name is Lorillia Brown Phillips, and I am the host of the Never Lose a Deal podcast. You may be watching on YouTube or on one of the podcasting platforms. As always, this show is for real estate investors who are looking for creative ways to be able to expand their real estate portfolio. And that is what I'm going to be talking to you about today. How does it work? Yes, I get it. You're seeing 100% financing, no money down deals. How does that even work? How is that possible? Well, that is what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm going to put out a disclaimer that I'm going to start doing in more upcoming podcast episodes that I've never did before. And so today I am going to put out that disclaimer. That disclaimer is that the information that I will provide today is not for information purposes only. That's right. It's not for information, it's for implementation, because here on the internet, we have a lot of people who will provide you with information. But as I mentioned to you always on the Never Lose a Deal podcast, any information that I share with you, I can always assist you with implementing. So here, it is not about information, it is about implementation. And that is why in today's episode, as well as in future episodes, I am going to be going more deeper into a lot of topics. So let's get to the topic at hand. 100% financing. What does that look like? Well, let's start off with 100% financing. And as I always mention when I do the beginning of the show, I say that this show is for real estate investors who are looking to be able to do creative financing to expand their portfolio. So, creative financing is a very wide topic. And so, I want to always tell the real estate investor or the business owner who is looking to do some form of creative financing is that be very careful of people or experts or information distributors who tell you there's only one way of doing creative financing. And as I mentioned to you in the disclaimer, the information I'm sharing is not just information. These are real life scenarios, real things that I have been able to help my clients do. So, no, this is not just for information. And you know what? Okay, just had to put that on airplane mode. And so, with saying that, be very careful of people who try to tell you there's only one way to do creative financing. There's 100 ways to skin a cat. I talk a lot about that here on the Never Lose a Deal podcast, and so I'm going to share with you real life scenarios that I have been able to help my clients with, because creative financing is not just up to real estate, is not just lease options, is not wraparound mortgages. Creative financing is the ability to put together a real estate deal that is not the traditional way of buying real estate. And one may say, well, Lorillia, what is the traditional way? Well, the traditional way is similar to residential. You find a house or some type of investment property and you get a mortgage and you see if you can qualify, and voila, that, pretty much the transaction is done. Well, that, like I said, that is one way of buying real estate. But with creative financing, and that's what I want to talk about today, it can look like really whatever you want it to look like. And that's what I mean when I say there's no one way of doing creative financing. Creative financing is the ability for you to create a win for you as the buyer as well as for the person who's the seller. And you two can come up with a mutual way that benefits both of you. And it's going to be out of the box. And when I say out of the box, it's going to be non-traditional than what most people would think about when they buy real estate. So on the internet, there's a lot of people who say, oh, creative financing is just get a business credit card and buy a piece of real estate. By all means, that does work. That is a form of creative financing. Very elementary, but it is a form. And it really just works in certain regions of the country, in the Midwest, maybe parts of the South. But what about in markets where real estate is higher? What does a creative financing deal look like then? Because unfortunately, if you're in markets like where I'm at here in the Northeast, where multifamilies are going for $500,000, the chances of you trying to get a credit card to buy that is going to be it's going to be not even, it doesn't even financially make sense. And so I want to first start off by saying most creative financing deals that are done by, like I said, an investor is an investor who does know their numbers. One of the biggest things that I see when it comes to the person or investor who desires to get 100% financing is they don't know what 100% financing looks like. Remember when I said 100% financing, no money down, it gets to look like what you want it to look like. Now, that doesn't mean that the person who is selling is going to accept it, but it gets to look like what you want it to look like. And that is the piece where many investors, whether they're experienced or non-experienced, but primarily on this podcast, I'm talking to the experienced investors because the newbie investor, they're really at the point where they're trying to even see if it's possible. They are still, they don't know what's possible. So their approach to real estate is they need someone to show them how it's done. And remember, I said with creative financing, you have to create the scenario. So for myself, and like I said, this is not for information purposes only. One thing that I do is I help investors put together some different forms of capital, whether that can be asset-based lending, business funding, and create a scenario or private lending where it is a win for both of you, meaning you as the buyer as well as the seller, but for it to be something that works for both of the individuals. What I find is many investors don't know what it looks like. So they're desiring for 100% financing, but they don't know what 100% financing looks like. And that is why I have made the distinction on many podcast episodes that when you decide to move over to the investing world, you don't have the crutch of, oh, the mortgage person is going to tell me how this works, or the real estate agent is going to tell me how this works. That's not how it's done on the investing side. So when I say that creative financing gets to look any way that you deem that how it should look for what works for you, you have to literally know what the numbers are. Let me give you an example. Investor here in my local market was looking to buy something here locally in the market. They are not working with a realtor, but they were looking on the MLS for deals. They came across a tired investor who was looking to liquidate some properties, and the listing agent who lists the property had said that the owner was open to owner financing. So that right there is, that's a clear opportunity to say, oh, this me as the buyer, real estate investor, is looking to be able to present an offer to the seller that can mutually work for both of us. Now remember, the client of mine was like, okay, Mr. Seller said that they were open to, owner financing. Well, lo and behold, they saw the property. It was a tired landlord, was looking to liquidate two properties, and properties needed a lot of work. One of the properties, both of the properties, the the client of mine was looking to get financing. So, of course, an appraisal has to be done or what have you. But how the whole transaction was going to be put together, um, is where the creativeness came into. Because remember, the investor posted it in the MLS listing, um, is going to do owner financing. So if you're going to do owner financing, then you don't really need to get financing. Well, lo and behold, come to find out, the owner was not open to the owner financing. Why? Because what the seller wanted didn't benefit my client. And the reason why is because I always like to say, you as a negotiator is going to get what's called, either you're going to either get the price or you're going to get the terms. Well, the seller, who's the tired real estate investor, they wanted both pieces. They wanted to sell at their price, which of course the properties needed a lot of work. So the price that they wanted, it wasn't even possible, because after her coming to me and we did an appraisal, the bank did an appraisal, the houses didn't even appraise for what the owner was looking to sell them for. So I told her, go back to him and tell him, if we're going to take your price, because we clearly, one of the properties is not appraising. If we're going to do your price, and I told her, then you have to get your terms. And I told her to let him know that, if this is the price that you want to sell it at, then allow me to get the terms that I want. Now the terms is going to be what benefits her. He doesn't get the ability to make the terms. Now one may say, well, yes he can, and he has, rightfully so. Yes, he can ask for his price and ask for his terms. But clearly that hasn't been working for him. Why? Because one thing that we identified, the houses that he was looking to sell had been sitting on the market for many months. And so clearly he was not getting the price or possibly the terms that he wanted. I say all that to say, it gets to look like how you want it. There's no one way to skin a cat. Let me give you another example. Say you are looking to get a buy a fix and flip. One thing that I notice, many investors who want to get into the fix and flip space, and they could be experienced investors, they may already have some buy and holds, and now they want to go into the fix and flip market. But one thing that I notice is that some of them don't know their numbers. Now, investors who are doing fix and flips, it's a no brainer. They know their numbers. But investors who decide to want to go into that area of fix and flip, they don't know their numbers. And so, a classic example of doing 100% financing, most lenders who provide fix and flip, whether it's a hard money lender or asset based lender, is going to create a financing scenario where they're going to give you a portion of, the buy, how much you're going to buy the property for, not what it's worth, but in its current condition. And then you have to go come up with a portion of money. Usually they'll say, we'll pay up to 80%, 75, 70%. The list goes on and on. Depends on the lender. And then you have to come up with the other portion. Now, normally many lenders who are in this space will say, we will do 100% of the of the cost for you to fix it. But that's where it gets hairy, because if I'm an investor and I'm looking to get into this space, this is a perfect example of 100% financing, because the lender is going to want you to put some skin in the game. Like if you're going around at your RIAs, talking to lenders or on the internet or what have you, and you're looking for them to give you 100% financing, that is where many people get stuck, because I can't speak for every lender, but lenders want you to put some skin in the game, because lenders only care about two things. They care about, do you have the ability to pay, and am I going to make money off of this particular deal? Those are only the things they're caring about. Because when it comes to the investing world, it comes down to the numbers. As opposed in the residential space, it's not about the numbers. That's why you'll get a lot of people who will tell you, when it comes to buying just a regular home, they'll use very esoteric words. You're going to build wealth, you're going to create generational wealth. It's very esoteric, because once again, you're buying a home for the first time. It is based on your ability to pay. So that's why they look at your, debt to income ratio. Do you have a job? How long have you been there? The list goes on and on and on. But when you come to the investing world, it's all based on numbers. Lender wants to know the numbers. No lender is going to lend to you and you don't know how, what's the property worth. Yes, you may be getting it at a certain price, but then also, is there room in the numbers for it to be a profit? Taking into consideration, what's the cost you're buying it? What is it going to cost for you to fix it? What are the holding costs? The 100% financing comes in, that the costs that are in the middle of that, meaning all your holding costs or what have you, those are the costs where someone else can provide that financing for you. Now, what's very common is people will say, oh, well, just get a business credit card. It depends. It really depends. In certain markets, a business credit card can absorb the cost. That's where a private lender may come in, because a private lender may be willing to carry the cost of everything's involved, in terms of the 20% that you have to put down, all the holding costs that are involved. Then you can even structure it, whereas, is it does it make sense to even use the costs that are associated to fix the property? Should we use those funds, or should we use the private lender? Once again, creative financing, 100% financing, gets to look like however you want. But this is the piece where many people would say, oh, well, people always say get a private lender. Well, where are private lenders at? The private lenders are everywhere. But the missing piece is, most people do not even know how to communicate. Going back to the numbers, because that's the part of real estate nobody likes to. Everybody likes the esoteric world of real estate. Oh, looking at the homes. They love the aesthetic of real estate. But when it comes to the numbers, crunching those numbers, nobody likes to do that. And crunching the numbers is really where the wealth is. You having the ability to just have a conversation with someone and say, hey, I'm doing this deal. This is what I'm looking for someone to partner with me with. This is how much you can possibly make. Letting them know what's the interest rate on the money that you're looking to borrow from them, how much they're going to make if they were to borrow, if you were to borrow that money from them. If you can literally have a conversation with someone saying that, if you put your money to work, this is what you can possibly make. This is a conversation that you can even have with a lender. Many investors always say, oh, I'm looking to do a fix or flip, but I can't really, I can't really, have any conversations with lenders. They don't take me serious. They don't take you serious because most lenders have a vetting process. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. This is, it's not FHA. Like, they're not going to sit and show you how you can possibly build wealth for yourself. Once again, the esoteric word, but at the end of the day, they're not going to tell you what you need to do to make money, because now what they're hearing is that you don't quite understand how the business portion of this business works. And there's a good chance that if I was to let you borrow my money, you don't know. So that is why most people will say, "Oh, I tried to talk to a hard money lender or a fix and flip lender or asset based lender and tell them I wanted to do a fix or flip, or I wanted to buy a multifamily, and then from there I was looking to turn it into a permanent loan, possibly DSCR." And once again, they know the information. Like I said, got a lot of information seekers, and a lot of information givers. You can go to any online school community and they're going to give you information. They're going to give you a lot of information, but they don't give you no implementation. So now when you try to implement all this information that you have, because you bloated with information, you can't even have a money and numbers conversation, because the only thing a lender wants to hear, what are the numbers? How much money can possibly be made? How much money can you make as the investor? How much money can I have? Because I'm gonna tell you this: any investor, I was literally in a networking meeting, and there was this investor that down to the T, they had everything laid out in terms of how much money they're going to make, how much money the lender possibly going to make if they were to partner with a lender on this deal. Possibly could be a hard money lender, or if it's a fix or flip lender, asset base, or a hard money lender, what the hard money lender possibly can make, because they know, okay, if I go with a private lender, I may not have to pay any origination fees or any other fees. And so, but they know that they still have to position it where it's a win for the private lender, and they were able to communicate that, as well as if they were to do it with a hard money lender or asset based lender. They knew that, okay, if the lender was to charge me this on origination fees, and if the interest rate is this, all the numbers were calculated to the T of what's the win for the investor, what's the win for the lender. You think if a lender saw that, they don't want to do business with that lender? I mean, with that investor? They'll take that investor all day, every day. I know for me, it's easier for me because now I don't have to deal with someone who's telling me, "Oh, I'm looking to do this." That's why I tell people all the time. There's individuals who just they hear things, little sound bites on the internet, 100% financing, but they don't know what it looks like. And I tell people all the time, imagine someone coming to you with a blank check saying, "It doesn't matter what it costs, but I'm willing to give you money. I'm willing to back you in real estate. But the only thing I need for you to tell me is, from a number standpoint, how I can possibly make money and how you can make money, down to the T, in terms of interest rate, in terms of what money can be made up front for the investor, what money could possibly be made at the end. Once again, you get to create it any way you want. If you can't have that conversation, that blank check is taken away. Because this is what a lot of people don't understand. No one is going to show you how, if they're the ones providing the money, going to show you how to put 100% financing, no money down deal together. Now, is it possible? that, yeah, if you hire a real estate coach, or or you working with some type of funding consultant and they're assisting you, that's different. But if you think you're going to go to a lender or anybody who's in a position to lend to you, whether it's a private lender, whether it's a asset-based lender, whether it's a hard money lender, whether it's a mortgage broker, if you think they're going to sit there and show you how to put 100% financing deal together, you will be waiting forever. And that's why I did this podcast episode. Now, one thing I want to disclaim, even though I say, yeah, could you possibly hire a real estate coach? Yeah, it's possible. Could you possibly hire someone, a funding consultant? Yes, it's possible. But this is the missing piece that I get all the time, is that people will give people information, but they cannot give them implementation. So be very careful of a person who says, oh, I can show you how to put it together. That's great. That's great. But now, what relationships do you have that can help me execute it? Because I love what you put together. I love your PowerPoint. I love how you present it. You talk really great. You got the right pizzazz. Things sound good. But now let's implement it. That's the missing piece. So it's a catch 22. What do you mean by that, Lorillia? The you mean to tell me the mortgage professional or the mortgage broker, or the asset-based lender, or whoever you're working with, the private lender, they're not going to show me how to put together a deal. And then I also am not going to, I may get a real estate coach or consultant, or funding person who can tell me the information, but they may can't help me implement. Then I'm in a catch 22. Yes, you are. And that's why I'm a big advocate of, if you decide, this is the part of real estate that a lot of people, which will knock them out the game, is the numbers. Most people don't know the numbers. And in this type of climate, real estate climate, you want to know the numbers. That is going to be the part of real estate that no one wants to. Whether you decide to use some type of software, there's plenty of softwares out there. I was recently on a Zoom, looking at a demonstration of a rehab calculation software. I'm not going to share it because I'm not affiliate, so I don't get paid for it. But one thing I can say, that software was able to help an investor put together scenarios to the T. Let's not forget, we got Chat GPT. Can you use Chat GPT? Yes. There are many AI tools that can help you. But once again, as they say with AI is only good based on the information that you give it. So if you don't know the right questions to ask, you're not going to get the right outputs. And so I leave you with this today. Can you get 100% financing, no money down? Yes, you can. But at the end of the day, you have to create it. That's going to be something that you're going to have to be able to do. 100% financing don't just fall in people's laps. As much as that sounds good, and it's a great internet soundbite, but they don't just fall in the lap. There's individuals who are doing that, are investors who truly do know their numbers, and they can communicate how both parties can win, how the person who's lending the money can win, and how they can win by being part of the transaction. So once again, this is Lorillia. And as always, if anything you've heard sounds like something that you would like to further have a discussion with, because remember I said it's not for information only, it's for implementation only. You can always you'll see the ticker scrolling across this video if you're watching on YouTube, www.leverage portfolio capital. Put in your information. Let's see what type of deal you're working on and how myself or someone on my team can assist you with being able to execute on that deal. Once again, this is Lorillia. See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.